The In It Together with Lori Lynn Green talk show is a positive way to start your day. Ready for some encouragement?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pumped. Let's let the healing begin.
Come be inspired. Hear moving stories. Even laugh out loud.
Can't make heads or tail of what I'm saying.
Just incomprehensible.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
You'll hear real people doing real things to make a real impact.
You are heroes every day.
Hear honest, compassionate, engaging issues you care about.
You see people come together to do good in our community, and the more we come together, the more good we can do.
Listen in and get started on redesigning your life and hear what's positive in Greater Manchester. Here's your happy host, Lori Lynn Green.
Good morning, friends in Greater Manchester. Welcome to In It Together. We're so glad that you've tuned in. If you'd like to find us on the web, you can go to inittogether.net, listen live or to previous shows, even link to our Facebook and Twitter. And if you like and follow us, you'll see we're bringing out the best in people to influence positive change in this community and beyond. Today is the very cool Storm Chasing with meteorologist, weather historian, and storm chaser Ron Moore Jr., who's always here to bring his passion for extreme weather, science, and history to life from a biblical perspective. How cool is that? You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned. We'll be back right after this. Hi, I'm Lori Lynn Green, advancement strategist and owner of AlphaAdvancementStrategies.com. I've been very successful at helping people overcome stressful situations to get immediate results in their personal and professional lives. At Alpha Advancement Strategies, we provide a non-judgmental and supportive environment, empowering clients to focus more on reaching their goals. You can find us on the web at alphaadvancementstrategies.com or call us at 603-860-9260. Alpha Advancement Strategies is where you invest in yourself.
Morgan Self-Storage has been serving Manchester and Salem, New Hampshire for over 15 years. Facilities are heated with security and video surveillance in well-lit hallways, easy access loading, and high-capacity elevators. With many-sized units, portable trailers, and boxes for moving, we can meet your residential or business storage needs. 400 Bedford Street in Manchester or 8 Willow Street in Salem. Visit morganstorage.com or call us at 603-623-2000. Morgan Self-Storage, making self-storage secure, safe, and easy.
Hi, I'm Bob Bola, Chief Instructor of Defensive Strategies and anchor of the Personal Safety segment, where we talk about personal protection, situational awareness, and home defense. Tune in every Wednesday at 9 a.m. and refuse to be a victim, only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Hi, I'm Mark Major, certified coach and speaker. Join me Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. for It's a Wonderful Life, all about leadership development and living a positive lifestyle. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Welcome back to In It Together. We are kicking off Storm Chasing with Ron Moore Jr. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. You know, it's funny that I think that song's been on there. We've had this show over a year and a half now, and in some variety of form. And that song captures my personality.
It does.
That's the kind we put on, like out in the Great Plains Chasing. We ramped that thing up like on the movie Twister, and we're going, dang, all on the headbanging thing. No one would have any idea that I'm a minister out there. No one. They would just
because we put that, we have this idea of what we think it should be.
I know. And what's sad is sometimes we take all these professions and we want to make them so cool that we go the extreme the other way. And I always tell people, there's a balance. There's a way to act mature but have a lot of fun too.
Mature?
I know. Mature. Man, we've had some weather here in the last week or so. I love it. Not that you get a forecast correct, and I'm not the only one who was saying it about the severe weather this year, but to know you can recognize a pattern instead of it being a computer model. the computer models weren't able to really project any kind of storms this year, but man, they have been rolling through the Northeast. If you live in Mass or Connecticut, Rhode Island, these guys got hammered again yesterday. I mean, 3 to 5 inches, lightning, hail, wind. I think it was 2 days ago I put out, or was it yesterday I put out that statement about Connecticut. Winds gusting to 70 west of Danbury. I mean, hurricane conditions, just really wild stuff. And, so I wanted to let this be known. People are traveling a whole lot, I know, because I'm behind them in traffic. The Mid-Atlantic today, southern New England down to Mid-Atlantic is on again, and there's probably going to be just a lot more severe weather in July and August. Rain events, heavy rain events, flood events, stuff like that. And I'll give you the real simple reason coming from weatherman Ron. Very chilly air over New England. 62 yesterday here. Very chilly.
I heard someone put their heat on, and I thought, coward.
It was awesome. I love the wind off the lake
it.
Was howling, and it was coming. I opened the windows, and the curtains were blowing, and it was just. But it was nearly 100 just south of Philly. And that's not even. I mean, that's extreme. But I've been in places where you've had it 60 to 90 and only be about 40 miles.
Well, you kind of like the extreme.
I do, but you get those two boundaries set up about midway, which would be South Connecticut, okay, is generally where your front lies, stationary, and these systems come out of Canada. Any little ripple in the atmosphere, okay, any little ripple that occurs disturbs everything. And in the wintertime, that would be called, it wouldn't be perfectly an Alberto Clipper, but that's kind of what it would look like. Little systems coming down, quick hits. This time of the year, there are thunderstorms, and sometimes they're violent with that kind of heat. So if you're wondering why that's happening, that's why. When you watch the weather maps and you see the weathermen showing that front moving north and south, back and forth, that's where your weather's going to be, 100 miles either side of that cold front or stationary front that's actually moving a little bit. So the point is, we've got several weeks of this coming up, and here's how I think the weather's good. We usually do this at the end of the show, but we'll talk about it all during the show. We're going to have these severe weather events coming through the Northeast and East Coast and Midwest, possibly the Northern Plains, but certainly from Great Lakes into New England down to the Mid-Atlantic. Then we're going to switch to hurricane season probably when we should, which is generally August. And the numbers are pretty high for this year. If the numbers come true, we're looking at 6 to 8 more hurricanes coming up in the season, around a half dozen or so, and at least a couple of them being major. So we've got a lot of action to look forward to. The storm trend we're having over New England is a little odd. So it could be something that's giving us a precursor saying, hey, watch out when the hurricanes form.
You're the only one I know that talks about severe weather and hurricanes as something to look forward to.
They are. They're awesome.
Well, you are the extreme weather guy.
Yeah.
But you're more than just the weather guy.
I am. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what... Oh, go on.
Oh, go on.
Well, you're kind of... What you share is really your passion, you know, and we can have more than one passion, but your main passion isn't just weather, but why you love weather. And why you love weather is because you're being authentic to who God made you, and I love that about you. Yeah. I love that. My husband keeps telling me Ron's a pretty cool guy. I like him.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good.
It's good to be liked.
I
like him too.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that to say, if you're not thinking and you're not buying into Ron's cool weather, something to look forward to, listen a little closer, because even at the beginning when you were talking, you said, you're looking at patterns versus computer models. I want you to kind of explain that a little bit more. What do you mean by patterns? I'm gonna
use a term, and it could sound really naughty. So if you don't like because some people out there really do protect their kids from certain words, and I really don't blame them. We did too.
Okay, so is this a disclaimer?
It's not a curse word or anything. It's just, and it's a word probably it should be mentioned because a lot of people have issues with these things. But anyhow, I shouldn't even say it. When you're looking at computer models, especially people who love extreme weather and extreme weather events, it used to be called, and again, here's the word, so blip your kids out. It's called weather porn.
Oh, okay.
So porn is this thing that is really looking at imagining things that really aren't there, that you're never going to get. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it's a deeper meaning, obviously, than that, but that's part of the pretext to it, or the context. And when you're looking at computer models, and you see storms building up, and you project these massive events to take place, you're fantasizing. You're fantasizing about stuff that likely
Right.
isn't going to – it's called verification in the world of meteorology.
Right.
Most storms that show up on computer models never happen.
Right.
Never. Okay. This is something I've never revealed before. I don't know if I've even talked about it in this simple of terms, so this show right now we're getting it, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about extreme events that will be coming up in 10 or 20 years, I have no faith in that at all when you base it on a computer model, because
Right.
90%, I could tell you right now in the last 3 weeks, the computer models have had New England getting hit by 4 major hurricanes. I don't tell you that because I know it's
Wrong.
fantasy and going to go away, because the next model run has nothing there.
Right.
And what I don't get, again, when we come to this whole industry of basing everything we do on climate and shifting climate and stuff, is why we're going to base everything on computer models that get it wrong all the time for the next 2 weeks, but I'm supposed to buy into the next 10 years.
No, this is really good. And I actually did find the other definition of that word.
Yep.
And it's just emphasizing the sensuous or sensational aspects
That's
of,
good,
of
yeah.
a non-sexual subject
Yep.
and stimulating a compulsive interest in
Yeah, it is.
something, so.
It really is what the word means. And, we always take it toward, the other term, intimacy type thing. But
Right.
So when you're looking at weather models, you're getting a lot of stuff. When you're looking at patterns, each season, to me, I believe this, and this is still something debated. We talk about all the debate in the weather community. This one is debated. This is a good debate. It's called the cycles, the weather cycles. And there are theories out there that things will recycle every year, starting a new pattern in the fall. And this will continue. And it's a guy out of Kansas City who developed it, okay? So it wasn't me who came up with this. And by the way, the guy who came up with it is a climate change guy, of all things. So I can listen to people. I totally disagree with
They can't have it both ways, but they want
climate
to.
change. But then, well, and that's what people have told him. You don't believe in cycles of this, but you believe in cycles of the year. And he said, yeah, it is tough. He's a smart
Double standards.
He's a smart guy.
Is a going thing.
Well, and what I'm trying to get across to people is I listen to people that don't believe like me all the time. If they have something good to add, I'll take it in a heartbeat. It doesn't mean I have to buy into everything they say.
Right.
And so the cycle pattern sets up. And so if you were looking at this last fall and looking at this in the wintertime, this is what it began to show us. It starts looking like this, and we're like, okay, we got this severe weather coming through. And if it did this in spring or early spring, then probably by midsummer it'll be doing it again. And so that's what we mean by pattern recognition. You have to keep records and take notes and take a mental note of what has happened to know what's going to happen. And that's what they do. So models are just a tool. There's nothing wrong with computer modeling. It's awesome. I actually am extremely impressed with weather computer models, especially the 24-hour one. There's some that just go out 18 hours or 24 hours. Those things are so accurate, it's incredible sometimes. Not always to the detail, but let me give you an instance. Yesterday it had the rain just missing New Hampshire by maybe 5 miles, staying in mass and just pounding them. I said, that's so stupid. That's 10 miles from my house. How can that be? Well, guess what the radar did? All day yesterday, it did nearly what the computer model projected. That is based on mathematics. The weather computer models take into account physics, but they're based on mathematical formulas that are way beyond my pay grade. I looked at them at FSU. We had to study some of that stuff, obviously, for meteorology and climate studies. But the friends of mine who went into that, they couldn't care less about chasing a storm. They couldn't care less about looking at a thunderstorm like I do. They look at the mathematical equations. It's fascinating what we begin to break down. I'm going to, in the next, over the summertime, July and August, as we have time on the show, we're going to break down some of this stuff dealing with math. And we're going to do it in a fun way because I want people to realize that math in its discovery, like calculus and other components of mathematics, were discovered, okay, and decoded by men and women who believed in God. That's the only ones who did it. I want to make that clear. The ones who had any kind of involvement who did not believe in order or creation or God really didn't contribute much. And if that offends people, I'm sorry. The more I read, I got 2 more new books. One's recently written, thick as everything, but halfway through it already, talking about, and these are not written by people who are per se Christians or believers. They're just making a factual, historical statement about what occurred. That the math we use in computer models, the math we use in engineering, and all these arenas would not be here were it not for people who didn't go to God and say, look, there's something inside me, my passion, as Lori mentioned earlier. This passion of mine is drawing me in this direction, and they literally would just read into what God said in the Bible, but then they would talk almost at a spirit level and begin to pick up things. And hope that doesn't get weird for people, but you've got more than just your mind operating. But anyhow, as we dig into this the next couple of months, I think it's going to fascinate people. And whether you believe in God or don't, I think you're going to be fascinated by the topics we bring up, by the people we bring up, and one I'll throw out there so people can look. Benjamin Silliman. His last name is spelled Silliman, I think. I've got his...
It's Silliman.
There you go. I've got his autograph right here. He didn't sign it for me because
he's a Yale graduate.
He died
now.
in the 1800s. Yeah, he helped establish the philosophy department, natural philosophy, and then mathematics and a lot of things. And we're going to be talking about this guy the next few weeks. I've actually got hold of a guy on the internet, and I mean it's like one of those random connections. I do so much searching, and he has a letter from this guy that he's willing to get rid of. Pretty reasonable too. It's nothing about science in this letter, and again, if I get it, I'll show it on the show, and we'll actually put it out there. I don't have it in my hand yet. The donations, as a scientist, how he's trying to help this homeless young man get on his feet and what he's willing to give money-wise to make it happen. But he also implies in this thing, this guy's going to have to get it together too. Mm-hmm. It's a conversation we would have today from a preeminent scientist. And nobody else really, a guy even said that. He said, yeah, this is a letter from him. There's a few out there. People really aren't interested in this one. And I'm thinking, I love it because it's one not of a science letter, but it points to his humanity. And as a Christian man, which this guy is very high up in as far as being in the Bible and things of God, just that side of it. So if I get that, we'll explore that letter on the show because I think it would fascinate people to know we're repeating things.
Yeah, and you even...
We're repeating things,
it's funny, we talk about Christian a lot, and you and I know there's so much diversity in who Christians are.
Sure.
So if you're listening, I would say don't just look at that when we're talking. Look at what we're saying, because, those things that tick you off, they tick us off too.
That's a good point, actually.
Just to be honest.
in the show, one thing I guess I'd put that out there like this. Anybody that's open-minded and wants to learn truth, whether you call yourself Christian, not Muslim, whatever you call yourself, if you're open to truth, you're going to love the show because that's what we want to explore. In fact, the Latin word, I believe, for truth is veritas. And it's over Harvard. It's still one of their mottos is to learn truth, to know truth. And that's really probably the content of what we're driving at here.
We are truth seekers, and so
that affects everybody, whatever your belief system. It really does.
Well, and here's the thing: this is why you can learn from people from different groups.
Yeah,
some of them.
The founding fathers did.
Well, we've noticed things that work. If you find the root of them, go back to the Bible and the truth anyway.
Yep.
So you can learn a concept without knowing its origin.
Yep.
And that's why we can learn from everybody, but knowing that's kind of the difference about who we are or whatever. But anyway.
I'm with you. I like that. I mean, I think it always has to be brought in when we mention things like if you're mentioning Bible and stuff like this, especially if you're mentioning Christian. I could take an hour to talk about that.
Well,
topic.
Think about this. You can. There's so many diverse things out there. You got the Westboro Baptist.
Yeah. I know.
Extremists, they're to me they're no better than the the ISIS extremists.
You know how I used to say this when I was at Florida State, and I, as you know, I met with many groups there. I wasn't actually a member of too many quote Christian groups at Florida State. I was mostly a member of every group I disagreed with. I wanted to learn what they thought and why they thought it. I didn't even go there to combat them. I just went because I wanted to know what people said. And here's what I used to tell people. They said, so you're saying, I don't love God or God doesn't love me? And I didn't say any of that. You said it. And I said, number one, if you're sucking in air, if you're breathing, God loves you.
Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. We're truth seekers who love humanity.
Yeah, exactly.
Enough to not control them and help them become everything God meant them to be. That's really
our
heart.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I hate controlling people.
That's all it's about.
I work with on myself.
And it's not about an organization. It's not about a building.
Nope,
it's not about
It is not.
For us, it's
a good point you're bringing up. I'm glad. It's good to bring that stuff up. You're right, because if you say, I got you.
I think you and I think this is a really valid, important part to bring out too. Is many times scientists want to throw the Bible out, and many times biblical scholars or Christians want to throw science out, and you and I believe that they can help each other.
Oh man, I'm telling you, the
drastically.
stuff I'm studying that are direct quotes that I've been looking up as I'm studying this. I wish I could go out.
And we're not talking about Christian Science.
No, exactly not. I would love to go back and do a PhD on scientific history. I really, really would. As I dig into this stuff, especially the world of meteorology, they all fascinate me, but math, physics, chemistry all lead to meteorology and oceanography, which they tie together. I would love to do it because I'm learning as I read and study that I didn't know a fraction of the truth, even now, of how much these men and women really had to believe in a creator to be able to do what they did. And again, this isn't talking Christianity. This is talking a creator. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They had to believe to come to a grip that there was an order in things. No one believed in order before 1650. No one believed in an order in the universe. It was all random, chaotic. And as I'm reading these things, it's like, you know what used to flip people out? This is one thing I learned. That the stars, moon, and sun did their job all the time, generation after generation. Every 100,000 years they did the same thing. But on Earth, everything changed. And they made note of this. Historians did, some of the scientists before Sir Isaac Newton. They would say things like this. They said, it's amazing that the sun and moon do their job, but we keep killing each other.
Yeah.
And they said, so that we must be cursed and that's blessed. That's how they looked at it. When they discovered that the cosmos was the same as the Earth, there was an order on Earth, like ants and things like that, and the weather had patterns, start understanding this stuff. You know what they got hopeful about? They said, there must be an order on Earth we never tapped into.
And the other thing is, how can we separate it when the very stuff that they're learning now comes from that foundation, like you were talking about?
Like I said, when we break this stuff down, it's going to help. If people will capture this, it will take you into your destiny, too, where it's not just about weather. This is about passion.
Right.
Finding your passion.
And the thing is when we know about the Creator, okay, we've all run into people who seem to get it, but yet don't know their connection with the Creator.
Right.
So those, and then you have the people who think they get it and are far from it. So, anyways, long
Good
story
stuff
short.
so far.
All right, we're going to be right back, so stay tuned.
Little Leapers and Knowledge Keepers Childcare and Preschool offers learning experiences that give kids a healthy sense of self and meaningful connections to the world around them. We teach children from a positive perspective so they learn healthy conflict resolution and develop character. Owner Jennifer Lever has over 28 years' experience in child development. She's helped children learn to read as young as 18 months. Join our happy place where we make happy happen, located in Pinardville, bordering Bedford and Manchester. Call today at 603-491-1780.
Are you looking to get fit and you've tried going to the gym or started an exercise plan but somehow can't get the results you want? PGEM Fitness offers personal training for individuals and small groups. I start you off right so you're mentally and emotionally prepared to get physically fit. At PGEM Fitness, I will help you develop a plan that works with your budget and schedule. I'll even come to you. Find me on the web at pgemfitness.com or call me at 603-660-3004. PGEM Fitness, your personal trainer to get personally fit.
Hey, this is Marnie Wells, anchor of Musings with Marnie. As a mom of 12, I've learned some valuable things about faith and family. Join me every Monday at 9 a.m. where I'll share practical wisdom with you, only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Hi, I'm Ron Moore, anchor of the Storm Chaser segment, where we'll talk about severe weather in history, science, and today. Join me Fridays at 9 a.m. where you'll learn to be ready for any storm that comes your way. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Welcome back to In It Together. We're in the midst of Storm Chasing with Ron.
I know, man. That song could be like the opening one for Sunday. That could be a...
So we were just talking between the breaks. I always like telling people the secrets of the breaks, but the point came up.
There are none. Remember, we had one the other day live.
Yeah, whatever. We're just real. So you were just talking about somebody, when somebody wants you to learn what they learn.
Yeah.
And we were talking about how, we can always see people who get together who are organized for the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But we can't get the great minds to be organized for the right thing.
You're right.
It's a sad
The
story.
Royal Society of London, who is still the longest-running society of scientists in the world, started in, I'll get it wrong, 1600s, mid-late 1600s. were not formal. They did eventually get a charter from the king, but they just started off pretty random, and they were insulted a lot. As I'm reading and studying this stuff in depth, Robert Hooke and others who are just famous scientists from back then, man, they took it on the chin constantly. And what brought them together was not their personalities. They had very conflicting personalities. Sir Isaac Newton was noted for sending in his guy to deliver, one of his workers to deliver his message to him. He thought he was sometimes too good for the rest of them. That's the way the story goes. And yet Sir Isaac Newton was also very humble in other areas. I said these weren't perfect people, but they were organized about one thing. They were discovering a whole, and they called it this. This is literally the term they used. They called it the kingdom of mathematics.
Yeah.
And they said that kingdom resided in the kingdom of God. That was their words back then. Not that phrase totally, but that was they used the term kingdom of mathematics, and they talked about the kingdom of God. And their point was that this was talent on loan from God, and that this stuff was being, allowed to be discovered on Earth. And as so each one of them had this mathematical thing. One dealt with bugs, one dealt with water, one dealt with the sky. That was their common purpose. So that's what I'm saying. That was the common purpose. I think you mentioned the organized crime. Well, what was the common purpose? Crime. Whatever crime it was organized. At least you had a stream. You do this.
Exactly.
I do. And when we come to truth tellers, sometimes we sometimes lose that. My truth versus your truth. So we need to find common truth.
No, I love that, common truth, because, as we're thinking about it, if we can get past what we think is arrogance in someone and look at it instead as confidence in what they know, and if they can back it up, not how someone says it, but research it yourself, then maybe you'll find the truth.
I've really learned in life, and I mean, it's literally been the last 10 years, maybe FSU, I guess, but certainly after being in New England, I'd get around people that just kind of rub you a little bit the wrong way, especially they may say something insulting. But then, and I've realized we shut down real quick on the next things they have to say, but they may have some real truth. They may have some real things to say. And I think maybe that's what, great people of wisdom in history have said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, truth is not subjective.
Yeah.
But if it is, that means it's still in process.
Isn't it crazy that the preamble says we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal? To me, that one line, and I've heard it used a lot more the last 3 years than I have the last 30, but that's a powerful line, self-evident truth, that all men are created equal. I said, everybody's looking for equality today, and I said, these founding fathers said, yeah, it's pretty self-evident to us.
Well, this is the biggest lie. Man can't give it to you.
I know.
You already have it. So if he can't give it to you, he also can't take it from you. So I think what people are looking at is they're looking at their fleshly freedom.
Sure. That's why I can't stand the isms.
But true freedom is in the heart.
I know.
Yeah.
You're exactly. Well, that's why true freedom, if you're ever thrown in prison for not doing something, so you have a tyrannical government move in and take people.
Well,
you'll hear these people say, "I'm not in prison."
Well, look at Paul. Look at Paul in jail.
Right.
Paul in jail. He worshipped, and the doors open for him.
I know. Yeah, you're right. No, the heart thing is a powerful thing, and that's what we pick up. Going back through history. Let me do this. Just a little bit of segue, because there's a couple of stories I want to get out. They're very important. So I used to throw a lot of dates out there. I've learned to slow it down, because my son even told me in church. He said, "Dad, he said you're." He said, you explode. I have tons of information. So now what we even do in church is I'm taking several weeks to do the same thing to make sure it saturates in, do the names again, then add a little bit more detail. So I'm only going to cover 2 events in past history this morning that happened in America, because they're both pretty significant. And the first one is way back. Governor Winthrop, who is the first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, would be July 15, 1643. Now, understand, in 1643, there's not many people in America, all right?
Right.
And they're not organized at all, because you have those up here. You have some maybe down in Florida going on with St. Augustine and the Spaniards. You had the Spaniards in the Southwest, but no one knows what each other's doing pretty much at this point in time. And you had the Native American tribes scattered all over America, right? But no one's talking and no one's sharing data. There's no Facebook, no internet. So I want to make sure everybody out there understands that. No one hardly knows anyone else exists in the country, because it's a big nation.
There is no Society of London.
That's right. There is no Royal Society of America, because we don't exist.
And there are no weather models. Okay, go ahead.
1643 now. That's a long time ago. Winthrop is talking about twisters that are hitting Massachusetts. In Newbury, Mass., tornadoes are hitting, and he describes them in his journal. Now, Governor Winthrop described a number of tornadoes in his lifetime in eastern Massachusetts. I want you to think about this. That's the only area that has been really settled by the English is eastern Massachusetts, okay? That's the only region. They have no specialized equipment, okay? They don't even know much about tornadoes at that time. They're not even sure what they are. In fact, most people thought they were mystical. Remember, this is a time people saw them and they called them serpents from the sky. They really believed, the Indians, the Native Americans called them not the finger of God, but they had different mystical names for them when they came out. Winthrop describes it meteorologically. He describes it as a weather event. This is significant that in the 1640s, before the Royal Societies even been formed, this is about the time of Sir Isaac Newton coming up. While this is all going on and everybody's all getting excited in Europe about the world of science, just getting ready to be just born, Winthrop, who is a minister and a governor in Massachusetts, is describing a tornado in weather terms.
Wow.
That's the first thing. The other thing to understand about this whole thing is there must have been a lot of tornadoes back then for him to be catching them on his little piece of soil on the east coast of Massachusetts. We don't hardly get any down there now. If it's happening there, it must have been happening in Kansas. Now, if I'm going to take today's modern society and just extrapolate on my own, as many tornadoes as
That's a big word, Ron.
I know.
Extrapolate.
Well, sometimes I come up with them. If I think about the 20-year period or 30 years he does recording of weather and tornadoes and storms, then I'm thinking this must have been mega outbreaks going on. I'm thinking back then it must have been serious climate change going on. Funny I actually mentioned that. Thank you, Lori. Do you know in these journals they actually talk about changing climate all over the place? Wow. So that's not a new thing. Climate changing has been around forever and always studied. What we added to it in a significant matter, and they even did this some back then too, is talk about how we're changing it with the way we do things, okay, to a global level. Even the settlers back then, if you read journals and stuff, they'll tell you they think we're changing the climate because we plowed too many fields. There is microclimate change. When you build a city, you create an urban heat environment. Washington the other day, downtown was hitting 100 and the suburbs were 93. It's a big difference. I mean, when you're adding in heat index and stuff. So there's no doubt that happens. But anyhow, those are topics for other days. Just take that in. 1643, Governor Winthrop describes tornadoes hitting Newbury, Massachusetts, even nailing down the town. So he's a tornado chaser back then. He's with me. Yay. All right.
Wow.
Exactly.
You have a friend.
I know. I have a friend named Governor Winthrop. Let's see, where's my other one? Because I got the other things to show too. Where did the story go? Oh, there it is. Oh, this one's sweet. This is July of 1886. July of 1886, that's about 20 years after the Civil War. George Washington Carver's about 20 years old at this time. The Weather Service, which is the Signal Corps, which I believe under the War Department, I believe it's changing into the Weather Bureau at this time, are getting close to it. Weather's really growing. Florida has grown pretty good, but still because of malaria and because of the still tribal wars going on there and alligators and water moccasin, and it's no joke, those things kept people out. It's funny, they're still there, and yet, well, there's not tribal warfare, but actually I guess it could be, Democrats and Republicans. So, anyhow, but you have the alligators and snakes and all that still because they're still eating people.
There's
I mean, it's pretty,
green alligators along.
In July in 1886, Lori's getting it. She sounds like Charlene now. 1886, 3 hurricanes hit North Florida in 30 days.
Wow.
That would be amazing. So back in 2004...
The sky is falling.
We left Florida in 2004 to come up here. 2004, 4 hurricanes crossed over the state of Florida in a 7-week period. I think it was 4.
What year was that?
That was 2004. Yeah. Can you? I left, and in fact, we got hit in North Carolina while we were driving up. It hit us. It's a weird time because I wasn't watching the weather. I was just trying to get up here, and we were driving in eastern North Carolina. Winds were 60 miles an hour, pushing our vehicles around, howling and everything. And I remember Josh was 16 at the time, 15 and a half, and he was driving the truck full of stuff on the back of it. I said, that's how Southerners do it. Get there, boy, drive that truck. Hey, like that?
You chewing tobacco? I just want to know.
See, I can still talk like Southern. I know, I can still get that going, right? Be careful. I do that too long, I may lock in. So 3 hurricanes crossed the state, mostly from Cedar Key to Jacksonville. And the reports from back then, I can't remember the name, and if anybody wants details on these, by the way, text us, whatever Facebook is, and we'll get details later on. But 3 of them, tremendous damage. So if that were today, that would include Tallahassee, Tampa, Gainesville, Orlando, and Jacksonville. South Florida would have probably not been hit as hard, in Pensacola not. But those major areas, probably 15-oddish million, would have been major affected for a solid month. So if we have a season next year, because we're already getting out of July, or halfway through July, if next year we have a season of July where there's 3 hurricanes hit Florida, take the same path.
You mean it's not going to be unprecedented? And
that's where I used the term news the other night. I had a leadership meeting, and I was talking about news. And the old word for news, and this comes from old world. I'm talking previous to 1680. I'm not talking about even in early America. I'm talking way back before America was much of anything. The word news, to bring a news article to someone or a news item, meant had never been witnessed before and was truly unprecedented. That makes our news today all fake. Just about, because I don't know that we're creating anything.
Oh, boy, I hate to say this, but Trump was right.
Well, so here's a good one. Mark Zuckerberg, when he introduced Facebook, really had news.
Right.
That was news. If you're doing something that's been done, like most of what I do has been done, even when we came up here to start a new church, that had been done here before. The weather history, I gather, has been done before. When I read that the other day, it really stirred something. And maybe this is something for the audience. And again, this doesn't matter where you come from in life. It doesn't matter what your belief system is right now. Because I believe as you let truth get in your heart, I believe you start heading the right way. I think we do. We get precision in our direction. But
you're a heretic.
Look for somewhere. I know. Look for somewhere in your life a news event to come out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Something unprecedented. I talked about this a few Sundays ago, and I guess everybody loved the message. It wasn't even part of it originally, but I said, you are an unprecedented event. Mm-hmm. You've never existed. Your fingerprint and I are totally unique to anybody who's ever existed. Then that means there's an idea inside of you.
My radio show model is unprecedented.
Could be.
It's different. Well, it is.
I think what happens, here's what happens when something's unprecedented, too. Everybody notices it. This is the disconnect, because I've done things I thought were that great, and no one noticed them, and I thought, okay, God, if it's truly part of what should be part of my destiny, I think people should be able to see this thing, which is why I like the In It Together method, because I always believe in teams. I believe in working with other people to achieve those things. I think independently you don't get much done. I think you need help from others.
Mm-hmm.
I
absolutely.
think you need the strength and encouragement and motivation and skills and talents.
There are no Lone Rangers and Destinies.
Right. You're exactly right. So those are the 2 storms we got. Those are really sweet, and I guess you could give that contact info if you want. If anybody wants to call us or anything.
If you wanted to actually talk to us today on Facebook, you can see the post.
Yeah.
The posts for Ron and I are there for storm chasing. You can write in the comment section. We'll see it live and be able to share with you over the air. Phone number is a little sketchy right now. It may or may not work. So feel free to give it a try, because my Skype number decided to do an update and change the whole app, and my phone is rejecting it. So say no more.
Interesting. Facebook's the way to go then, probably.
Yeah.
Try it to Facebook today.
But look at that, though. Negative publicity. Now everybody's going to get a Skype number. You're welcome, right. Skype.
Yeah, there you go.
3 times I said your name. Send me a check.
Exactly, free ad. But back to the news, you mentioned Skype. All these things, apps, were news. This is news that is tech news. But that's only one arena. You go into medical stuff where they make discoveries on how to cure things. That's genuine news. We have beat this kind of cancer.
Oh, so you don't think positive programming's news?
Oh, yeah, I do. No, I do. I think when if you look at what I'm talking about, each arena, we know that it truly is unprecedented by the impact it has as well.
Right.
Which is what I believe. I do believe this will. I believe positive programming. Somebody the other day I read somewhere talking about being positive, and I said, I've always been positive. I said, but there are people out there who think being positive means never saying anything negative or never coming against anything. I said, that's not positive. I said, that's fake. That's phony. I said, because to truly be positive, sometimes you have to come against things that are broken and all that other good stuff.
So would you say that Jesus was unprecedented?
Oh, totally. In fact, I would go as far as to say most people, whether they believe he's the Son of God or not, believe that he's unprecedented. Most people I met at FSU, I hardly found many. There were a few, but not many people anywhere in any religion didn't like him.
Right.
Almost everybody liked Jesus. You know what I mean? I mean, just because of what he did. He was a relief. When he walked into a room, he just started cleansing and healing. And
Well, I believe even the Quran quotes him.
yeah, I think it does. I mean, he just absolutely unprecedented. So he's a great role model for that. You know, coming into an arena, whatever it is that, and this stuff again. This show is kind of like a journey. I listened to some of the other ones. I've been listening more to the In It Together shows when I get a chance. I finally
How am I doing, Ron?
Good. I finally learned how to use archives because I'm doing it with my messages too at the church, and I'm trying to learn how to use stuff that I'm not comfortable with. Because
this is the story of my life. I'm uncomfortable all the time.
Well, the problem is when we moved up here to do what we did with the church, I said that was such an epic event. That took 10 years out of my life.
I hear you. I hear you.
But to do the stuff we need to do, I've got to be a little more savvy to how things
This is
work.
how I tell people, because I've done a lot of things uncomfortable too. It's hard. Sometimes
like
it's
having
really,
this show with me.
No.
Just
It's
kidding.
really hard. But so here's the thing. It's really how we're looking at it. If we got to do it anyway, why not have a good attitude? Why not expect the good to come from it? Anyways, we got to take a short break, so we'll be back right after this with more of the Weird Guy.
Yay!
Hi, I'm Lori Lynn Green, Advancement Strategist and owner of AlphaAdvancementStrategies.com. I've been very successful at helping people overcome stressful situations to get immediate results in their personal and professional lives. At Alpha Advancement Strategies, we provide a non-judgmental and supportive environment, empowering clients to focus more on reaching their goals. You can find us on the web at alphaadvancementstrategies.com or call us at 603-860-9260. Alpha Advancement Strategies is where you invest in yourself.
Morgan Self Storage has been serving Manchester and Salem, New Hampshire for over 15 years. Facilities are heated with security and video surveillance in well-lit hallways, easy access loading, and high-capacity elevators. With many-sized units, portable trailers, and boxes for moving, we can meet your residential or business storage needs. 400 Bedford Street in Manchester or 8 Willow Street in Salem. Visit morganstorage.com or call us at 603-623-2000. Morgan Self Storage, making self-storage secure, safe, and easy.
Hi, I'm Bob Bola, Chief Instructor of Defensive Strategies and anchor of the Personal Safety segment, where we talk about personal protection, situational awareness, and home defense. Tune in every Wednesday at 9 a.m. and refuse to be a victim, only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Hi, I'm Ron Moore, anchor of the Storm Chaser segment, where we'll talk about severe weather in history, science, and today. Join me Fridays at 9 a.m. where you'll learn to be ready for any storm that comes your way. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Welcome back to In It Together. We are in the final segment of Storm Chasing with Ron Moore Jr.
Yeah.
I forgot your lightning. There you go.
Isn't it awesome?
It is awesome.
There's been a little bit of that here lately.
I don't know why.
Josh was down in Mass, and he said it was a pounding storm the other day. He said lightning everywhere, and I told him I didn't like him anymore.
Now tell us why you just love extreme weather. What is the deal? I mean, who does that?
You know, I don't know why I love extreme weather, except I'm kind of an action guy. I love action.
You like movement.
Yeah, I do. I love the displays of nature in that way.
Mm-hmm.
But I love nature anyhow, and so for me, I have to go all the way back to when I was a kid when I loved everything. I was one of these guys. In fact, I think you said I first met you, the nerdy guy, the nerd science, whatever. That was me exactly. And it's funny because in my 20s and 30s, I hugely got into bodybuilding and martial arts and all the other stuff. And at my prime, I probably looked like I played football. I looked pretty decent. Not now, but then I did.
So you're a fit scientist.
Well, no, it was really funny because people, it was made me mad one time. My wife's sitting there and somebody said, were you a quarterback in college? Which is a compliment, you know. And she said, she starts laughing. She goes, he can't even throw a football. Are you kidding? I looked at her and I thought,
Ryan,
you little
can't
jerk,
throw
you.
football?
Oh, my God. No, that was an insult. No, I can't, actually. Not very. I could throw one, but
My son, Ben.
I can't get it to land in someone's hands, and
He'll
I can't
get you
catch
to work
it.
on that.
Basketball wasn't too bad. Baseball, I stunk at, too. Basketball was okay.
So sports, were you...
Wasn't my thing, man. But in nature, I was into the nature. I was into weather. Biking, I did. If it was one-on-one, like biking, motorbiking, I love that. But when it came to nature, I enjoyed all of it. And as a kid, I would take little painter turtles in Virginia, the little ones out of the creek, and I'd put them in separate aquariums, each one, and do a test because they had this fungus that was killing them. They were all dying from this mold getting on them. And the town, I didn't know who they were at the town, but it was the biologists were coming out, trying to put them in cages and trying to figure out how to get rid of this algae on them. And they couldn't deal with it in the rivers because it was too much of it, okay? And this is back in the day when the mosquito truck came by and would spray the whole place, and like everybody's kids running around through the fog, dancing around in poison. You remember the old mosquito trucks? Did y'all have them up here? They would go shh and
we
spray.
didn't have that many mosquitoes.
They would spray them down south, and it'd be everywhere. There, it was so a mist machine throwing poison. Like everybody's dancing around in it. I think about it now. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy because we're so safe conscious. And you think about, these sprayers would spray a mist that would kill the mosquitoes, and we would be playing out in it, and they wouldn't stop for kids or nothing because it was considered healthy. And since then, unless somebody can correct me, I think they found out, it's actually toxic to humans.
Okay, I have to ask you something. Were you one of those kids that put frogs in your pocket?
I don't think I put frogs in my pocket, but I had stuff around a long time. I did have my mom was meticulous clean. Meticulous clean.
I can see
You came
that.
into our house, nothing out of order, nothing smelled. You weren't allowed to have a whiff in the air of anything. And at one time I had hamsters, gerbils, guinea pigs.
So you took very good
turtles,
care of them.
We had cat, dog, and we were mending some animals in the back. Yeah, and that took good care of them, and you had to keep everything clean. I mean, every Saturday I had to clean everything up. I had to take them outside and clean their junk up. And so, but I enjoyed science, and I loved weather at the same time. So over the process of years, to shorten the story, I learned that I really loved weather, and then I learned that I really loved extreme weather. And I really loved extreme weather for two reasons. I found it really exciting. But on the earth end of it, I found it really sad that people didn't seem to be prepared for any of this stuff. My dad was a pastor. We'd be in a town, a disaster would hit. People would get caught off guard. They wouldn't have insurance. They built in the wrong place. So I do believe in some measured control over a thing. A local township, places like that should have some control over what's built. Not a lot. I really like small government. But at least tell people this may not be the safest place to build your house. You know what I'm saying?
So
I saw the impacts of severe weather. Does that make sense?
Was this something that you wanted to fix?
Yeah.
Okay, I see now.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I didn't want to. People talked about stopping weather even back then. If you remember in the 60s and 70s, which we were pretty young back then, but in the 60s and 70s, they talked about the weather control machines. America had them. Russia had them. Everybody had them. Back then, everybody wanted to control weather. Now, everybody wants to act like they don't control weather. Or, I don't know. It's confusing, the whole topic. But, I wanted to be able to give people more advanced warning of what was going to happen to prepare them. So part of that is forecasting the stuff, then being able to verify where it's actually hit, and then seeing how it actually impacted people on the ground. Half of what I took at Florida State was urban planning. I took a lot of urban planning classes in GIS, learning how to do layers of a city, GIS, Geographic Information System. I had a certification in that at one time.
No kidding.
Where I could literally build a city from the top to the bottom.
No
and
kidding.
All the way from the plumbing, and there's very good money in that field. At that time, there was some. I got my master's. That was my part of my master's thesis. Was that kind
very cool?
It really was, and that's probably a part I don't bring up very often. I don't think I've even told you that.
So that's better than community organizing.
Well, it is, because that's why when I speak about a city and how we're set up, I don't just speak to it scientifically in the world of weather. I speak to it geographically and how it's been set up and structured. I've studied Manchester and Nashua somewhat, a Nashua Regional Planning Commission. I'm thinking about taking a volunteer position on there. I really am. I've talked to them several times about the water flow, how that all moves around. So for me, extreme weather was exciting, but it was also how does it impact people? And here's one thing I discovered, Lori. You know this already. What you don't fear cannot control you.
Yeah.
To fear something is to let it control you.
Right.
That's why I tell folks, let's learn about something, the truth of it, and it won't run your life anymore.
Right.
It's like an abusive spouse. When you're afraid of them, guy or girl, when you're afraid of that person, they can control you like crazy. The day you stop being afraid of them and the day you say, you know what, I've had enough of this, they are totally control-less. They have no power anymore at all. Mm-hmm. And they'll usually exhibit it. I mean, they'll freak out and that's what it is with weather or anything.
Control from someone always is an insecurity on their part.
And there's a lot of things we do. We don't want to see the car go in for an inspection. Check engine light come on. You go to the doctor, and they're going to give you numbers that actually show something wrong. You don't want to call that person because they're actually going to confirm your greatest fears. They're getting ready to leave you. I'm saying this is across the board. So fear is debilitating and it's powerful. So just in that little world of weather, I couldn't solve everything, and I'm actually refining what I'm doing now the last 2 weeks. I get out on my little boat, and I just spend time with God, the Creator, and I say, what is it I need to do in my sphere? I can't build computer models. That's not my gig. I don't do, and it's really being narrowed down to my messaging, what I need to say, because to say I want to own the world of weather, that's unrealistic. That's big and that's bold, but that's not going to happen.
You need to own your world.
That's right. So there's a segment, and that's what we want to tell the people out there that we're talking to. You don't have to own everything. It's just that one little thing. In fact, I do look at Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook, and that's essentially what it is, social media. Now, I know he's dabbled in other things, but that's what he's known for. What do we want to be known for? What is the thing that just cranks us up? And the way I describe it is this. People always say, what is it you really love to do? Well, that's become kind of a nomenclature. That's become a word for 30 years that we toss around. What is it you love to do? And that's how we analyze people. I'll do you better than that. What is it that you love to do that brings a solution to a problem in humanity? Mm-hmm. What you love to do should be a solution. It could be as simple as painting a picture. You're a good painter, and when people walk into a room, they just stare at what you painted. And suddenly you take away their problems. You know what I mean? You soften everything. But it could be something much, much more dramatic and more mechanical than that. But there's something you're passionate about that will also bring a solution to humanity.
Right.
If what you do doesn't solve something, and again, when I say solve it, you know what that means, the person that's creating that, then people aren't going to want what you got, for one thing. And I believe that everything we do should be lucrative.
No,
I believe
absolutely.
when you're passionate about something, there should be an income. I believe there'll be an income created from that because people will, again, people like, we have a debate in our family who likes which kind of fries. I love McDonald's fries. They're my favorites. Of all the fries out there, I like McDonald's fries. So if they create enough McDonald's fries that 1 million people like and are willing to buy every day, they can be guaranteed a sales of $1 million worth or 1 million fries every day. You create something that solves a problem. Nobody has McDonald's fries. I know that's kind of simplifying it, but and I think you went back to the radio show here, In It Together. That's what you call positive news. What was your term?
Positive programming.
Positive programming. Yeah, I mean that's
truth seekers.
Huge. I listened to the show Monday with the gentleman you had, and he was mentioning, in fact, as he was mentioning places, I think Huff Positive News, which comes out of Huffington, which I'm not really thrilled with their newspaper, a lot of the stuff they say a lot of the time. But I went to he's right, the awesome news section they had on Positive News, people doing great things. And I don't know how many hits it gets, but he was right. That's what he was saying. We don't look for positive news, but it is out there. I totally agree with that, which is why most people don't know the word. We'll go back to, this isn't religion. I want to make sure people understand it, but the word gospel means good news.
Yeah.
It's literally what it means. So based on the word we used earlier, it is good, unprecedented news. If we're looking at the word news, something that has never happened before, the gospel is bringing something into your life that has never happened before. I would say this, people deal with illnesses and things for generations. I say there's no need to. I do believe there's a healing. So that's an unprecedented event, comes in your house and kills that bloodline, just comes in there and stops that thing where it was. That's a whole nother arena.
Miracles are always news. Yeah, but as I was talking about before, as far as unprecedented, when I said about the show model, what I meant was not necessarily positive news being unprecedented, but the way that we structure it. It's not,
probably so. Yeah.
It's not. I didn't model it after anybody else. The way that it's structured.
Right. I will say this: of the 5 shows you have during the week, they're all very different, but they all hit the same thing. Going after things in humanity, things people are dealing with, and trying to, at least that's what I would get from it. And we've had several meetings with everybody in here. This show, I don't know there has ever been, maybe there has, but boy, if it has, it's just been small, of someone who is a storm chaser with a meteorology background and also ministry, working with people and stuff. I don't know that combo. I know that combo's never existed. I already checked it when we first started the show. I wanted to see what was out there. So I agree. I think I think your whole lineup is very much that way.
And we're making some changes and growing, and there's going to be some new stuff coming up hopefully by fall.
Oh, great! I got canned again.
No, but we're just again, we want to bring variety about what people want to hear, and if you have something that you want to hear or learn, or somebody that's very talkative and keeps your interest, we'd like to talk to them. Send them our way.
Yeah, we would. And on this show, if you would like to chat about this stuff, let us know ahead of time. It's funny because I've read some numbers in media and let me know if we run out of time on this, because I'll cover this before we end the show, the Saturday magazine, that people with huge audiences only have a few people call in or actually Facebook in. I mean, you have to have huge audiences to get any kind of momentum. And I know on the other shows, I think there's been you've had a few phone calls and stuff. We would love to hear from you. We don't, I know we have a decent audience out there, but we really want to hear what you have to say, what your questions.
We do. So make sure that you contact us. InItTogether.net.
Made sense.
Or on Facebook. No, you did really well. What I'd like to do right now, Ron, is I'd like to give you a chance to do the forecast. We're going to do a Facebook Live. You might want to jump on there and grab this.
Good.
And we'll post it. So here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah. Here we go. We're going to do the forecast first. A real quick thing. The Saturday magazine. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Saturday magazine. Let you guys be able to see what it is. And if you see that top line when she does that, you see it? See that tornado on there? This is a scientific group in the 1800s put this out. When people tell you religion and science don't mix, no, actually the world of believers is what actually started the world of science. So let me flip it around now. And it says this at the top. It says, under the direction of the Committee of General Literature and Education appointed by the Society for Promoting Christian Knowledge. Promoting Christian Knowledge. This is all about weather, and it's very technically written, and it comes from the year 1836. That's the original document. Original document coming from. That's pretty crazy. So when people tell you science and religion don't mix, contraire, no, actually, people who believed in God and the Creator actually started the world of science and knowledge in that area. Here's what we're looking at. We mentioned at the beginning of the show, still going to have rounds of wet and severe weather coming through as long as this boundary sits up in the northeast. I'll tell you this, too. The Arctic is freezing over fast. In fact, it's freezing over real fast. People tell you it's melting. Not anymore. That thing is freezing up. And I think it's Greenland has been having record snows already in July. Some of the, I think, literally unprecedented. They've never seen snows like this in 200 years in that area in the month of July. What does that tell us? It tells us the cold air is building up there already, and it tells us the heat in the south is still building, and I think there's going to be a corridor of heavy rain and severe weather this year, probably continuing well into August from the Great Lakes, Midwest, down across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Hurricane season will kick in probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And when it does, I think we're going to have an active 6-week period. I think from very late July and certainly into August and September, I think there's going to be a lot of storms. What are the odds of New England getting hit this year? The odds of the East Coast of New England getting hit are as good as anybody and better than Florida this year. Florida has less chance of getting a hurricane this year than we do, based on pattern recognition and historical tracks and stuff like that.
All right, excellent. Tell people where they can get your book, what it's called.
They can get it, The Storm Warriors. Let me see if I got it here real quick. I hate that killing airtime. There we go. Look at that. Storm Warriors. Amazon.com is where you can get it. You can get a Kindle version, or you can get this paperback version. That's that. That's us on the back there. It's called Saving a King. We're going to be doing a revamp on this for Christmas. So by Christmas time, it'll have a little bit of a different look, hopefully. Some stuff we're going to be working on. I'll be talking to Lori about, actually. So we're pretty excited about that. And you can go to the Storm Warning on Facebook and look at all the forecasts we have.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Ron.
Very welcome. Thank you.
All right, so we're going to take a short break here, and we'll be back. Hi, I'm Lori Lynn Green, Advancement Strategist and owner of AlphaAdvancementStrategies.com. I've been very successful at helping people overcome stressful situations to get immediate results in their personal and professional lives. At Alpha Advancement Strategies, we provide a non-judgmental and supportive environment, empowering clients to focus more on reaching their goals. You can find us on the web at alphaadvancementstrategies.com or call us at 603-860-9260. Alpha Advancement Strategies is where you invest in yourself.
Morgan Self Storage has been serving Manchester and Salem, New Hampshire for over 15 years. Facilities are heated with security and video surveillance in well-lit hallways, easy access loading, and high-capacity elevators. With many-sized units, portable trailers, and boxes for moving, we can meet your residential or business storage needs. 400 Bedford Street in Manchester or 8 Willow Street in Salem. Visit morganstorage.com or call us at 603-623-2000. Morgan Self Storage, making self-storage secure, safe, and easy.
Hi, I'm Ron Moore, anchor of the Storm Chaser segment, where we'll talk about severe weather in history, science, and today. Join me Fridays at 9 a.m. where you'll learn to be ready for any storm that comes your way. Only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
Hey, this is Marnie Wells, anchor of Musings with Marnie. As a mom of 12, I've learned some valuable things about faith and family. Join me every Monday at 9 a.m. where I'll share practical wisdom with you, only on In It Together with Lori Lynn Green.
That concludes today's Storm Chasing. If you want to join us on Monday, we'll have a surprise for you. We don't know who's coming yet, but it'll be positive programming, so you won't want to miss it. Have a blessed weekend. And remember, we're in it together.